Hey guys, welcome back, and today we have another week of grosses, so let's get into it. Up first, we have Juliet, which went from 96% to 94%, and 851K to 820K. I think this is a very poor week for Juliet. 820K is not ideal at all. I think, it's starting to face some of the more riskier numbers. If this has a 7 in front of it next week, I think I'm going to be very concerned. Because, a show like this can afford to not make $1 million maybe once or twice, but it hasn't been around for 10 plus years. It hasn't even made $2 million in its entire time in New York. So, again, this is not a horrible number, but this also isn't a good number. 820K, in my opinion, is too low for Juliet, and this is kind of really where it's like, this is like the last lowest bit it can go before it goes into like deep trouble, and it's already like not on very good ground. It's very shaky. So I'm very interested to see what happens, because I think 2 years ago I was like, Juliet's gonna go on for years, and I still think it is, and it has been here for about 2 years. But it's definitely showing signs of aging, and kind of a little too quickly, in my opinion, which is very interesting, as to why. But I don't know. Let me know why you guys think Juliet has fallen off. Back to the Future had one of its worst weeks yet. Actually, I don't know if this was its worst. I think it did 7, maybe one of the other weeks. I don't know. But it went from 79% to 81%, and 906K to 859K. And actually, its lowest week was 802K back in February. Yeah, so this is not a good week for Back to the Future. We're still in the summer months, and this should still be making $1 million per week, and the fact that it's not is very concerning. I definitely think this could close at the end of the year, because I think over the next 2 months, they're going to face a lot of 8s and 7s and 9s, and then they'll get $1 million in Thanksgiving and Christmas. But are they going to want to lose even more money when we get into January, February, March, April? Now, it did very well in the beginning of 24, but, I think since, like, May, it's kind of fallen off, but a show like this costs so much, and having, even subpar weeks can do a lot of damage a lot more quicker than, like, a smaller show. Cabaret went from 97% to 97%, and 1,520,726 to 1,459,506. Hadestown went from 100% to 99%, and 765K to 761K, so it's still doing steady. I think that, I would like Hadestown to have an 8 in front of it, but I think it's done so well for the majority of this year that it can take these smaller hits. I think as long as it doesn't fall into the 6s, they will be fine. Because I think 750K is like the lowest you want it to go, because it is a medium show to put on. It's not super expensive, but it's also not super cheap. It's like right in the middle. Hamilton went from 93% to 90%, and 1,778,290 to 1,640,394. Now, again, these are fantastic numbers, but you can definitely see the signs of Hamilton's aging beginning to show. Hell's Kitchen went from 98% to 97%, and 1,428,094 to 1,370,214. Moulin Rouge went from 98% to 97%, and 1,220,778 to 1,193,304. 6 went from 86% to 89%, and 746K to 769K. And again, I know that these are lower numbers for 6, but it's such an inexpensive production to put on that it can easily do 7s for like 5 years if they wanted to. Wouldn't be ideal, and obviously they would lose some money, but it's in a perfectly fine position. Stereophonic went from 99% to 100%, and 849K to 813K. Suffs went from 84% to 88%, and 713K to 728K. Again, these are not fantastic numbers. And I think this will close in January, have a similar run to Shucked. But things could turn around. It's definitely not fallen into the 6s yet, but I feel like that's what's going to happen. And once that happens, you know, and your show hasn't made $1 million for weeks on end in the summer, it's not going to look super hot. Now, the main thing that I'm super interested in is the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon went from 93% to 89% and 830K to 749K, one of its lowest weeks in a long time. And many people will say, is Book of Mormon closing? No, it's made too much. No, it's not going to close. Listen, Book of Mormon has been around for so long. They've had so much money from the tours, from the Broadway run, that it would take a lot for this show to close. You know, I think it would take at least a year of it doing super, super bad for it to close. And even if it stayed at the 7s and 8s, it's still going to go on for like 5 more years. So again, I don't have too much concern for the Book of Mormon. If it falls into the 6s, then I'm going to be like, okay, there's a big issue. But for now, I think it's showing signs of aging, and that's what happens to all shows. It's the circle of life of musicals. The Great Gatsby went from 94% to 91%, and 1,110,957 to 1,083,128. So that is starting to wind down, but with how much money they've made over the summer, they can take some 7s and 8s in the Septembers and Octobers, and then rebound with Thanksgiving and Christmas, and this show ain't going anywhere anytime soon. The Notebook went from 74% to 75%, and 544K to 530K. Again, when are we going to close it? The Outsiders sold out again, 102% capacity, and 1,452,387 to 1,428,279. And Water for Elephants continues to fail, going from 75% to 75%, and 751K to 801K, which is better, but far below their operating costs. So again, Water for Elephants and The Notebook, I still think are the two to close next, and the Book of Mormon and Hamilton are showing signs of some aging, and Back to the Future and Juliet are definitely on shaky legs. So that's the video. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.